Hawai'i Island Legends, as written by me.
Today, local kind and Aloha will be reading Hawaiian Island Legends, Pikoi, Pele, and others, as compiled by Mary Kawena Pukului. Preface. When Polynesian people came to Hawaii hundreds of years ago, they brought legends. We know this because the same stories and similar hero names are found in other Polynesian groups. Other legends grew about historical events in our islands, about real people and places. Some are very old, while others have grown in recent times. As all these stories were told and retold, changes crept in. While the main story was the same, details became very different. No one can say that one version of a story is right or the other is wrong. At the end of each legend I have given the principal source used. I too have made changes. Many of these stories are about chiefs, for they lead a varied and colorful life, and the common people like to hear about them. In old Hawaii, each valley, from mountain to sea, was a district with its district chief. Sometimes one ali chief made himself ruler of several districts, or of an entire island. Thus he became high chief, high ali, with a lesser ali chief under him. Ali means chief. We tell and read legends not only for enjoyment, but also because they help us understand people who lived a long time ago. Carolyn Curtis. Written by Carolyn Curtis. The acknowledgements. We express sincere appreciation to the members of the staff of the Kamehameha schools and to other teachers and librarians whose suggestions and criticisms have helped in making of this book. Mary Kawena Pukui and Caroline Curtis. We start with Pikoi. Rat shooting. Why is that crowd down the valley, brother? What are all those people doing? Pikoi's brother was preparing food for the imu and did not hear the boy's question. Pikoi and his father had come from Hawaii the day before. They had come to Manoa Valley on Oahu to visit the married sister. A crowd the very first day. Pikoi must find out what was going on. At first, he went slowly down the trail, watching the people eagerly. He saw someone with a bow and arrows. Rat shooting! That was a sport that the boy loved, and in a moment he was running. Pikoi reached the crowd and pushed his way among them. He bumped a tall woman who turned to him angrily. What are you doing here? She asked. Why do you push in beside your chiefesses? Pikoi did not quite understand that this woman was the chiefesses, the high chiefesses of Oahu. It is rat shooting, isn't it? He asked eagerly. I love rat shooting. The chiefesses must have liked the boy's love of her favorite sport, for she spoke good-naturedly now. Can you shoot rats? A little. The man with the red lei and with a bow in his hand is Ma'inele, the chiefess said. He is the best rat shooter on Oahu. I am looking for a champion to shoot against him. Do you want to be my champion? The chiefess was joking. A boy could not shoot against Manele. But Pikoi did not know she was joking. Oh yes, he said. May I use your arrows? Turn the page. The chiefess let him take her arrows, and Pikoi looked at them carefully. These are no good, he said slowly. He could not shoot against the champion with poor arrows. Just then, out of the corner of his eyes, the boy saw his father. He had followed Pikoi with a bundle in his hand. My bow and arrows, the boy thought. He broke the poor arrows of the chiefess and let the pieces fall to the ground. She was angry this time. You bad boy, she exclaimed. You have broken all of my arrows. Now I can't get the champion to shoot against Manili. I will shoot for you, said Pikoi. I told you I would. People had heard the angry voice of the chiefesses, and they came crowding around. So you are going to shoot against me? A Novoi asked. Pikoi looked up into the face of Ma'inele. Yes, he said. What is the game? 15 rats. The one who first kills 15 rats is the winner, Ma'inele answered. Will you shoot first, or shall I? You shoot first, the boy answered. and everybody shouted with laughter. "He's a clever boy," they said. "He tells Ma'anele to shoot first. Ma'anele is sure to get his 15 rats. Then the boy won't have to shoot at all. He is beaten without ever showing that he can't shoot. Oh, he is a clever one." But Pikoi did not hear the laughter and jokes. "You shoot, Ma'anele," he said. "Look, there is a rat." He said this in an excited whisper. "Look, there is a rat. There, by that weed stalk. Do you see?" "I have eyes," Ma'anele answered as he made ready an arrow. "Good, you. Go get it," Pikoi exclaimed. "There's another one, a big one, besides the Kanamani's tree. Quick, Manele." "Good, 2 rats. There's one way over there." "Keep still," warned Manele. "I shot rats before you were born. I can see them without your help." And he shot again and again. 12, 13, 14. The people watching smiled at each other. "There won't be any left for the boy to shoot," they said. Ma'anele stood looking around. Everybody looked. Ma'anele must have killed every rat in that part of the valley. Surely there was not one to be seen. "There's one!" exclaimed Pikoi in an excited whisper. "In the weeds!" He was pointing. Ma'anele looked carefully. "I do not see it." "No, you can't see the rat, only the whiskers. It is eating weed seeds and you can see its whiskers move. Shoot the whiskers, Ma'anele." Ma'anele turned angrily toward the boy. "Whiskers," he said. "I am a champion rat shooter. I have good sight. I have shot rats in the head. I have shot rats in the front legs. I have shot rats in the hind legs. But I never shot one in the whiskers. There is no rat there. Let us see you shoot a rat where there is no rat." Pikoi kept his eyes fixed on the clump of weeds, watching the whiskers move as the rat ate. He knew his father was standing close behind him, and he held out his hand. His father put bow and arrow into the outstretched hand of Pikoi, and he, Pikoi, chanted a prayer. Probably something like While he prayed, he raised the bow and took aim. He did not once take his eyes from those moving whiskers. His arrow whistled, and Pikoi drew a long breath. "I got the rat," he said. The chiefess nodded to a servant who ran in among the weeds and held up Pikoi's arrow for all to see. There were 3 rats on the arrow, and one had been shot through the whiskers. People looked at each other in great surprise. There was no laughter now. Pikoi held out his hand for another arrow. "Not that one," he whispered to his father. "That is not a good rat-seen arrow. I need a long one, a strong one." At last he had an arrow that pleased him. He bent his bow, then he stood looking off among the trees and prayed for power to shoot well. His prayer ended in a whisper. "Hush! Be still. There are the rats." His arrow flew. Everyone was watching, but the arrow went among the bushes and no one could see what it hit. There was a squeak, but then all was still. A servant ran to get the arrow. The crowd saw him stood down among the bushes. Then he called to another man to help him. A moment later they held up Pikoi's arrow, loaded with rats. The people had been very quiet, almost holding their breath. Now they began to shout. 15! Why, the boy got more than 15 with one shot! Wonderful! There's something to tell your grandchildren. My Nelly has been beaten by a boy. Pikoi got his arrows, and he and his father went quietly home to the feast the brother had made already. Next up, enemies of the chief. Enemies of the chief. Page 7. Keawanui, High Chief of Hawai'i, stood looking up the barren mountain slope towards the forest. Nothing. No one was running down the trail, and yet many days had passed. O Heavenly One, may you live long. Keawanui had not heard the man who now knelt before him. Speak, Keawanui has said. Page 8. O Heavenly One, many days have passed since your canoe makers went into the forest. It is not time to haul the new canoe down to Hilo. is it not?" "It is time," the chief had answered. "But no word has come. The men have not sent a runner to say that the canoe is ready." The chief turned again to search the mountain trail with his keen eyes. "I see someone!" the chief exclaimed. The tiny figure seemed to move slowly. It was lost to sight, then seen again, nearer and larger. For a long time, the chief and man had watched. "It must be the runner," said the man as the figure became more plain. But the chief's eyes were very keen. "No," he said. "It is my kahuna himself. What is wrong that the old man comes to bring the news?" The figure drew near. It was the figure of a white-haired man, yet it came on at a strong, steady pace. At last, the old kahuna knelt before Keawanui and greeted him. "May you live long, O heavenly one!" "What news do you bring, O kahuna?" Keawanui had asked. "The canoe is not yet hollowed," the old man answered. "The chief has enemies in the forest." "Enemies!" exclaimed Keawanui in a terrible voice. "Am I not high chief of this island of Hawaii? What men dare to raise their hands against me?" "No man, O heavenly one, birds!" "Speak, kahuna. I do not understand your riddle." "I chose a tree. It was a koa, tall and straight, fit for a chief's canoe. We cut it down, trimmed away the branches, and shaped the canoe. All had gone well, and our hearts were glad. We started to hollow the canoe. Suddenly we heard voices from above us. "Bad luck! Bad luck!" they called. They said that canoe will have bad luck, that the log is rotten. When it was in the ocean, it will turn bottom up. High above us in the treetops sat two birds. They called again their bad luck cry, and then flew away to the deep blue of heaven. We turned to our work, but the words of those birds were true words. They were rotten spots in the koa log." "Why did you not choose another tree?" "Oh, heavenly one, I did. Another and another. 3 great trees we have cut down, trimmed and shaped. Only when all the work was done did the birds cry their bad luck cry. Only then did we find rotten places. These birds are your enemies. They will not let the chief have a new canoe." "My enemies shall die," the chief exclaimed. He turned to the man, who knelt nearby. "Run to the rat shooters of Hilo," the chief commanded. "Tell them it is my will that they go up into the forest with my kahuna and kill those birds. No one shall cry bad luck to Keawanui and live." The command of the chief was obeyed. Some days later, the rat shooters returned to Hilo, hanging their heads in shame. "Oh, heavenly one, we could not kill those birds," they all said in a way or another. "They perched high on a tree. We bent our heads back until our necks ached. We gazed at those small birds and aimed our arrows. Again and again we shot, but no arrow could hit them." "Birds," the chief cried. "Shall 2 little birds bring bad luck to Keawanui and not be punished? Surely there is someone on this island who knows how to use bow and arrows." He called for runners and sent them around the island. "Call the best rat shooters on Hawaii," he commanded. "Tell them to come to the forest up there on the mountainside. Tell them the high chief himself will watch their shootings." Page 11. "He will give a reward to the one who rids me of these enemies. Now go." Some days later, the chief with his men went to the forest. They found the canoe makers ready. Another large koa tree had been cut, trimmed in shape. There lay the chief's canoe on the ground, but it was still solid, for the inside had not been cut away. Several rat shooters had come and all waited for their chief. "Where are these enemies you talk of?" asked Keawanui. He looked long into the tree tops. "I see no birds." One of the canoe makers lifted his stone adze and struck the canoe, beginning to hollow it. The chief saw 2 small birds fly from the blue sky and perch high in a small tree. Then he heard the horse cry,
Bad luck! Bad luck! The canoe will have bad luck. The log is rotten.
"When it is in the ocean..."
When it is in the ocean, it will turn bottom up.
The chief turned to the rat shooter nearest him. "You first," he said. "A reward from your chief if you kill his enemies." He watched the man bend back and take careful aim. He watched the arrow fly, and it fell short. "A weak shot," Keawanui had said, and motioned to the next rat shooter. This man bent his arrow back, far back, and let his arrow fly. It went straight towards the birds, but they moved a little. The arrow went between them. As a man after another man and another man shot and they missed, the chief grew angry. Then he became afraid. Could no one kill these strange enemies? Would he never have a new canoe? He lifted his head with sudden hope. "Ma'inele," he said, "I have heard that Ma'inele is the champion rat shooter of Oahu. Let us send for him." He turned to a trusted man. "You shall go," he said. "Take my own double canoe. Take strong paddlers. Go to Waikiki on Oahu and give this message to the high chief. Keawanui needs help. He needs the help of Ma'inele, the great rat shooter. Let Ma'inele come to Hawaii and rid the chief of his enemies. Let him do this, and Keawanui will give him the young chiefess for his wife." Keawanui did not know that there was a better rat shooter than Ma'inele. Page 12. Years had passed since Pikoi had won the rat shooting contest in Manoa. Now he was a man and living at Waikiki as one of the high chief's men. He was a strong, skillful, clever young man and a fine companion. He had many friends and only one enemy. Ma'inele had never forgotten that he had been beaten by a boy. One day, Pikoi saw strangers coming from the landing place. Men from another island. He watched them go toward the home of the high chief. Then he went to look at their canoe. A double canoe. Was that not a red sail rolled up in the bottom? It must be the canoe of a chief. Why had it come? Pikoi wondered, and where was it going? If only he could go in it. Pikoi longed to see other islands. After a time, the young man saw the strangers return to the beach. Ma'inele was with them. "Ma'inele, where are you going?" Pikoi asked. Ma'inele walked on as if he had not heard. Pikoi followed eagerly. "Where are you going?" he asked the paddlers. "To Maui, to Hawaii. Oh, take me with you. I want to see those islands." The men pushed off the canoe and stepped in, but no one answered Pikoi. "Take me with you," he begged. "I am a strong paddler." The canoe was gone, and Pikoi watched it cross the reef and reach the great waves beyond. Why should Ma'inele go and he be left behind? "Perhaps you can go in a smaller canoe." Pikoi turned quickly to a man who stood near, also watching. The small canoe?" he asked, not understanding. "Yes, a small canoe came from Hilo with the large one. A man named Waiakea was paddling. I think he went off to visit. Perhaps he will come to Waikiki." "I shall watch for Waiakea," said Pikoi. For a long time, the young man waited at the landing place. At last he saw a small canoe flying along before the quick strokes of one paddler. As it came near the landing, the man shouted, "Has the double canoe gone? The canoe of Keawanui?" "To Hilo?" asked Pikoi. "Yes, but take me with you. I am a good paddler. You and I together can paddle fast and reach Hilo before the large canoe." "Good," Waikea answered. "Get your things. I have to get fresh water." Well, Waikea filled his water gourds. Pikoi got food. He also got his bundle wrapped in kapa, his bow and his arrows. Soon the canoe was flying through the waves. Waiakea was glad. Waiakea or Waikea? Waikea. Say it how you want. Was glad of the help of this young man of Oahu. He did not know his name and he did not care. Both men paddled fast and wasted no time in talk. They came in sight of Molokai. Suddenly, Waiakea heard his companion exclaim,
There's a big rat.
Waiakea thought the rat was in the canoe and turned to look. The stranger from Oahu had bow and arrow in his hands and was getting ready to shoot.
Keep paddling, he said. Keep the canoe steady.
Waiakea turned to his paddling, but he was filled with wonder. Shoot what? Where? What was the young man talking about?
I got it, Pikoi said.
He began to paddle, and the canoe again flew through the waves. Page 14.
What are you talking about? Asked Waiakea without turning. The big rat I shot. It is trying to get free of my arrow. We must paddle fast and get to it.
Where?
On Molokai. It is quiet now. It must be dead. But let us paddle to the shore, for I want to get my arrow.
Waiakea watched his companion wade offshore. He watched him pull his arrow from a large rat. Then Pikoi came running back, stepped in the canoe, and took up his paddle. Waiakea stared. Who was this young man who could shoot a rat while far, far at sea? Wonderful! The canoe came near Maui.
There's a rat, another big one.
Waiakea heard his companion say and turned to watch him shoot. The arrow flew swiftly until Waiakea could no longer see it, but Pikoi was still watching.
Good. I got that one.
Where? Waiakea asked, wondering as if they paddled on.
On the rocks up there above Lahaina. Don't you see the rat?
No. Waiakea could hardly see Lahaina. Could a man really shoot so far and kill a rat? They reached Lahaina, and Waiakea saw his companion jump from the canoe, climb the rocks, and pull an arrow from a large rat. He could hardly believe his own eyes. The two paddled long. At last they came near Hawai'i.
There's another big one, said Pikoi suddenly. Upon the Kohola plain. Hold the canoe steady.
Waiakea watched his companion shoot. His eyes followed the arrow and saw it strike. He watched Pikoi pull his arrow from a great rat. I don't know your name, he thought to himself, but I know you're a great rat shooter. I don't believe Ma'anele can shoot rats better than you. The two paddled on, but slowly now. They had breath for talk. Waiakea told Pikoi about the enemies of Kewenui and why the canoes had gone to Waikiki.
I don't believe Ma'anele is a better rat shooter than you are, he finished.
Pikoi said nothing. When they reached Hilo, Waiakea took the young man to his home.
You stay with me. When it is time for the bird shooting, we can go up to the forest together.
So Pikoi stayed with Waiakea, but before time for the bird shooting, Pikoi had made another friend. This was the young chiefess, the beautiful daughter of Keawanui. Pikoi surfed with the young chiefess and her companion. They talked and sang together.
Tonight there's a big feast for Ma'anele,
Waiakea said one day.
Be ready early.
I cannot go to the feast, Pikoi had answered. I am going surfing.
Surfing? You can surf any evening. You won't often taste a feast like this Keawanui is giving. You should see the food ready for the imu. Everyone is coming.
I am not, Pikoi said firmly. I am going surfing.
And he spent the evening with the young chiefess and her companion. Pikoi did not want Ma'anele to know that he had come to Hawaii. It wasn't that he was pussy-whipped. Waiakea slept late next morning, and when he did awake, he was in a great hurry.
This is the day,
he told Pikoi.
Come, we are going up to the forest to see Ma'anele shoot those bad luck birds.
Suppose Ma'anele shoots them, said Pikoi. What will be his reward?
The young chiefess,
Waiakea answered.
If Ma'anele kills the chief's enemies, Kiwela will make him his son-in-law. So she is to be the reward,
Pikoi said to himself. Ma'anele is to marry that beautiful young woman. He must not. I can shoot better than Ma'anele. But what if Ma'anele kills the birds with his first arrow? Then he will get the young chiefess. Pikoi did not like that thought.
Come,
said Waiakea.
Everyone is going up to the mountain. We must hurry.
I am going surfing, Pikoi answered.
And miss the bird shooting? Why did you come to Hawaii?
I shall come up later. Pikoi surfed with the young chiefess and her companion. His fears left him. He almost forgot about Ma'anele. Are you going to the bird shooting? The chiefess asked as the three came out of the water. Are you? No, but we will walk up the trail with you. You ought to go. So the three walked up the trail. It was hot and dusty until they reached the forest edge. There they sat down. Pikoi climbed lahua trees for red and white flowers, and the young women made lei. A little breeze brought them the perfume of fern and maile. The air was full of bird songs. The three were quiet and very happy. Suddenly they heard the sound of running on the trail above. With the sound of Pikoi's fears returned, the bird shooting is over, he thought. Manele has killed those enemies of the chief, and he will marry this lovely young woman. The next morning, Waikea came around a turn in the trail and stood before them.
Here you are, he said to Pikoi. You must come with me at once. Kewanui is asking for you.
The high chief has never seen me, Pikoi answered. He has never heard of me.
He has now, said Waikea. Manele could not shoot those birds. He is no better than the rat shooters of this island. He even called for a ladder so he can get close to these enemies of our chief, but he couldn't hit them. They are hard to shoot, but you can hit them. I know you can. I told Kewanui that I have a friend staying with me on an Oahu, man. I told him you are the best rat shooter in the world. Bring him here, the chief commanded. Bring him at once. You must come with me.
Pikoi's heart was beating fast with joy when he heard that Ma'anele had not shot the birds. He was sure that he could. I will come, he said. Waikea took Pikoi to Keawanui.
Oh, heavenly one,
he had said.
This is the man from Oahu.
Keawanui looked at Pikoi sadly. Pikoi could see that he had lost hope. He had said to himself, my enemies are stronger than I. One more rat shooter. He will be no better than the rest. Aloud he said, pointing, There are my enemies, O man of Oahu. Shoot them if you can. Pikoi looked up at the tree tops. His keen eyes saw the birds, but he understood why others had failed. To shoot, a man must bend until his neck ached. Even then, the birds were two tiny dots against the sky. He turned to Waikea. I need a large wooden bowl of water, he said. A crowd had come to the forest to watch Ma'anele kill the birds. When he had failed, they were very sad. Bad luck seemed to hang over their chief, over the island. Now a stranger had come. Did he think he could hit the birds? The best rat shooters of Hawaii had failed. The great Ma'anele had failed. Who was the stranger anyway? They crowded around to look at him. Waikea brought a large wooden bowl of water and set it on the ground. Pikoi looked into the bowl, moved it, and looked again. Then he stood gazing into it. The crowd began to laugh. A man can shoot birds. Page 18. A man can shoot birds in the tree tops, and then stood looking into a bowl of water on the ground. Page 18, last sentence. A man came to shoot birds in the tree tops and then stood looking into a bowl of water on the ground. Laughter spread through the crowd. But Pikoi was not gazing idly. In the water, he could see the reflection of the birds. He could watch them without bending backwards or straining his eyes. He could watch them without those wise and evil birds knowing that he watched. Pikoi did not hear the laughter of the crowd. He was watching the way the birds stretched their necks and moved their heads. He watched until he was sure of the best moment for a shot. Then he prayed. He prayed as he had never prayed before, for so much was at stake. He must kill these birds with this first shot. He must win the young chiefess. As he chanted his prayer, Pikoi was gazing into the water mirror and watching for the right moment. Still looking down, he raised his bow above his head and aimed. For a moment, he held the arrow. I am Pikoi, Pikoi of Kauai. Hush, be still. There are the birds up there. Here I am below.
Fly, arrow of mine, to the neck of the birds. While Pikoi chanted, the crowd had grown quiet. With unturned faces, they watched his arrow fly. They saw it pin the necks of those bad luck birds together. The birds fell at their feet, dead. A great shout went up. Woo, yeah, my boy, local guy, yippee, ski-hoo. Joy and thankfulness. The enemies of the chief were now dead. Pikoi had won the young chiefess as his wife. Next chapter. Pikoi sees Hawai'i. For many weeks, Pikoi and the young chiefess lived happily in Hilo. Pikoi was son-in-law of the high chief now, a very great man. He enjoyed games and dances. More than all, he enjoyed his wife. But one day, he said to her, I came to Hawai'i to see Hawai'i. I came to Hawai'i to see Hawai'i. And I have only seen Hilo. I long to see all of this great island. The young chiefess smiled at him. But one day he said to her, I came to see Hawai'i, and I have seen only Hilo. I long to see all of this great island. The young chiefess smiled at him. Men long to see the world, she said. Go then, my husband. Go to Puna first. It may be my father will go soon to our home in Waipiu, and we shall meet you there. Oh, travel fast, Pikoi, for I shall be very lonely. Kewanui chose young men to go with Pikoi, young men who knew the trails, young men who could travel steady for days. These young men found Pikoi a fine companion, a good walker and a wonderful shooter of rats. By the time they reached Puna, they were telling of the shots they had seen. The chief of Puna gave a feast for the son-in-law of Kewanui. I said that wrong, sorry. At the feast he heard stories of Pikoi's shooting. He shot rats we could not even see, the young man said. He killed the enemies of the high chief. Hope woke in the heart of the Puna chief. I too have enemies, he said to Pikoi. 2 birds come at night to my garden and the garden of my people. They are eating all of our food. Kalo, sweet potatoes. Everything in the morning we find only empty vines. They are bringing us starvation. Has no one tried to kill them? Pikoi had asked. No one can see them. They come only after dark. In the morning they are gone. But you, oh Pikoi, your young men say that your sight is better than the sight of others. Your skill is greater than the skill of others. Oh Pikoi, kill those enemies of mine. I will try, Pikoi had promised. A little later, he left the eating house. Darkness had come. Pikoi stood looking over the chief's garden, bow and arrows in his hand. For a time his keen eyes searched the patches of kalo and potatoes. There, and among the sweet potato vines something moved. He saw those evil birds and shot. Looking around, Pikoi saw that the men were still inside the eating house. He went to the potato patch to get his arrow, but left the dead birds on the ground. Then he went back into the eating house to join the talk and the laughter. It was late when the men made ready for sleep. The chief led Pikoi to the best pile of mats. This is your place, my friend, he said. May you sleep well, but oh, Pikoi, I beg you to wake at dawn to kill my enemies. When full daylight comes, they will be gone. I shall awake in time, Pikoi answered as he pulled the kapa covers over him. He was tired and slept soundly, but the chief could not sleep. Every little while, he got up and went to the doorway of the sleeping house. The night was very black. Dawn at last. Now was the time. The only time to kill those birds. In a little while, they would be gone. But Pikoi was sleeping soundly. The chief did not know what to do. He said he would wake in time, the chief thought, but he does not wake. Shall I call him? No, he is the son-in-law of Kewanui. Too great a man to anger. I dare not wake him. The chief went to the doorway again. With heavy heart,
he watched the daylight grow.
The sun was shining when Pikoi awoke. He greeted the chief. Have you been out to look for the birds? He asked. It is too late, the chief answered sadly. You slept soundly, and now the birds are gone. Go out and look, said Pikoi.
Look in your sweet potato patch. The chief went. He found the dead birds. Dead! He cried joyfully. My enemies are dead, but what could have killed them? He stopped to look. Shot, but who? Suddenly he knew. He hurried back and met Pikoi outside the sleeping house. They are dead, the chief cried in excitement. Oh, my friend, I don't know when you did it, but you have killed my enemies. My people will have food. Next chapter on page 21. The chief of Puna offered Pikoi canoes to finish his journey. Good, said Pikoi. The trails are rough and long. He and his young men paddled. As they went along the coast, they stopped at villages. They climbed the mountain slopes. They looked at the great lava flows and listened to those who had seen Pele coasting down the mountainside on her fiery sled. One day they stopped for water. You are welcome to the water which flows from our springs, the people said. But the springs are on the edge of the ocean, and their water is little salty. Let us get water from the mountainside. Let us get water from the mountainside, said Pikoi. There is no spring on the mountainside, the people answered. Pikoi looked along the mountain. Do you see that place where fog rests? Just above it is a spring. Not so, the men of the village told him. We have climbed all over the mountain slope. There is no spring. You too? Pikoi said to two of his young men. Climb to that place. Take two of the village men with you and take water gourds. Watch my arrow, for where it strikes the earth, there is the spring. The men of the village did not want to go. A long climb for nothing, they said. Page 23. Pikoi is wonderful, his young man answered. He has shot rats so far away we could not see them. He shot birds in the dark. Yes, rats and birds a man may shoot, but no one can shoot a spring where there is no spring. At last, however, two men said they would go. The four climbed to the place where fog rested on the mountain. Then they turned to look below. They saw Pikoi raise his arms to shoot. They heard the arrow strike the earth above them. In a moment, they had reached the place. There was the arrow sticking in dry earth. What did I tell you? Said the two from the village. Pikoi's young men pulled out the arrow, and water flowed. Cool, clear water. The men of the village stared in wonder as if the others filled their gourds. Then they ran down the mountains. Water! Woo! We got water! A good spring that flows freely. Woohoo! Bring you water gourds! The whole village climbed to see where the wonder and to drink the good water of the spring. Water still flows from that mountain spring, and when children stop to drink, they hear again the story of Pikoi. The canoes went on. Often the men stopped to feast with the chief or to see the sights of a district. A large island, Pikoi said. In his heart he longed to be home, to see his wife. Then a runner came. The high chief has come to Waipio, he told Pikoi. The young chief has sent me to tell you. They reached Kohala and had... Kohala? They had reached Kohala and had not far to go. They paddled steadily. Pikoi was watching the mountainside. See that cloud of dust? He said. There is a lizard. A great lizard. Yes, one of his young men said. I have heard of that lizard. A great mother lizard. And your children live on this mountain. The people fear them and never climb that slope. Pikoi laughed. The lizard is large, that is true. But she will not kill man, look. As he exclaimed as he made ready bow and arrow, I shall shoot the lizard and then one of you climb up and get my arrow. The young men looked at each other. But the lizard children, they said. They do not want to meet those lizards. I shall kill them all, Pikoi promised. My arrow will go through the mother lizard. It will tangle the tails of the children and kill them too. Watch, I shall shoot. If you see little dust clouds running here, and then you will know the children have escaped. But that is not what you will see. You will see only one cloud of dust rise straight up. Then you will know that all are dead. The young men watched as Pikoi stood up in the canoe balancing himself. They saw him aim and heard him chant. I am Pikoi. Hush, be still. There is an enemy on the mountainside. I shall have fun with that enemy.
Large lizards, small lizards, I shall kill all. Death to the mother, death to the children too.
The men watched the arrow fly and saw a single cloud of dust rise upwards. I will go for your arrow, every young man cried. I am not afraid. Let me go get your arrow, Pikoi. Pikoi chose 4 to go. Soon they were back with the arrow. It was just as you said, they told him. Your arrow went through the mother and tangled the tails of the children, killing everyone. We have told the villagers already. They are climbing the mountain to see the dead lizards. The people of Waipio had heard much of Pikoi. They had heard of his killing of the bad luck birds. They knew he was the husband of their beloved young chiefess and son-in-law of Keawanui, their great high chief. They heard that Pikoi and his young men were coming by canoe, and they had sent watchers to tell them when he came. Now word went through the valley. Pikoi is coming. A crowd gathered at the landing place. As Pikoi's canoe came closer, men waded out to meet him. Strong men lifted the canoe and carried it into the honu shed. Only then did Pikoi and his paddlers step out to be welcomed by the crowd. Pikoi went before Keawanui with greetings and with thanks. He found his wife. They wept with joy to be together once more.
I have seen Hawai'i, Pikoi said, and now I am at home.
Pele, my soulmate.
Pele, goddess of the volcano, came with her brothers.
Let's try that again.
Pele, goddess of the volcano, came with her brothers and sisters seeking a home in Hawai'i. She tried island after island, but always as she dug her fire pits, she heard the voices of the sea. At last, she dug a great pit high up on Kilauea, far above the ocean. There she tended her fires. Sometimes she lived in peace with her family about her. While the brothers fed the fire in the pit and the sisters made lehuale, or danced with the hula. But sometimes Pele went about the island. Often she went among her people in the form of an old woman. If anyone was rude to her, he would be punished. Often a whole countryside would be laid waste because of some rude word or scornful laughter. There are many stories about Pele, of both her cruelty and her kindness, some very old and some very recent. Here are a few.
How Hawai'i was made safe. Hiaka was Pele's youngest sister. She was beautiful and brave, and Pele loved her dearly. But Hiaka was very different from Pele. The goddess of the volcano liked to destroy, but Hiaka loved people and wanted to help them. She had young women companions from whom she learned to dance the hula and make lei. Okay, let's just be clear. Hula in Hawaiian means dance. So if you say to dance the dance, dance the hula, you get what I'm saying. From them, she heard of the dangers which threatened people on the island of Hawai'i. She heard of giant mo'o, of man-eating sharks, of evil spirits, and of a terrible whirlwind which destroys homes and gardens of men. Page 30. I shall go on a journey, Hiaka said. I shall go on a journey. Hiaka. I shall go on a journey, Hiaka said. I shall travel around this island of Hawai'i and destroy those evil beings. I shall make Hawai'i a safe place and a safe home for people. Now who will come with me? Her sisters and her brothers did not answer. I need a traveling companion, Hiaka said again. Come with me or I shall have no one to talk with but my shadow. Still, the brothers and sisters did not answer. As for Pele, she was stirring the fire in her pit and gave no thought of Hiaka's words. Are you afraid, Hiaka asked the others. Are you afraid to journey around your island of Hawai'i?
There are many dangers, one sibling said.
What are you? Hiaka asked. Are you gods and goddesses or timid people? We have no power against the evil beings who rule Hawai'i. We have no power against the evil beings who rule Hawai'i. You also have no power against them. They will kill you. Oh. Another simply interjected, "You have no power against the evil beings who rule Hawai'i. You also have no power against them. They will kill you, Hi'iaka." "Pele will give me power," the young goddess said. "Oh, Pele," she cried, "great goddess of the volcano, give power to Hi'iaka. Give power to your dearly loved sister. I go to meet the great Mo'o, and the spirits that live in the forests, fierce sharks that live in the bays, the whirlwind that lives in the valley, destroying all in its path. Oh, Pele, I ask you for the power. Give me power to end all of these evils." Suddenly, Pele turned from the fire pit. "I have heard your prayers, O Hi'iaka," she said. "This pa'ua has the power of lightning. Take it, and in your hour of need, call for help of the wind and storm. They will answer. Now go." "Alone?" asked Hi'iaka again. "It is no fun to talk to my shadow. It doesn't answer." Then Pele called her own serving women. "Go with my sister," she commanded, and turned again to tend her fires.
Dear Americans, I did have